I'm Johan from UX Nitro, and today I'm going to show you how to integrate Ezoic like a pro. There's multiple ways we can integrate Ezoic, but the best way is a bit more advanced, and in this video I'm going to break down this process and step-by-step configuration of integrating Ezoic with Cloudflare, and that is of course done on WordPress. Alright, so before we start getting into the meat and potatoes of configuration, I'm just going to quickly go through the whole process of getting your website on Cloudflare and then integrate it with Ezoic. And then after we've done all the integration processes, we're going to look into the best possible configuration, and I'm also going to explain to you in detail why all these configurations has been done. Okay, so for this tutorial I'm going to be using a website that I use as a testing ground. There is about 90 articles, there's some traffic here, but this is mainly just for testing purposes. So let's hop into the backend of Namecheap. So typically domain register, I like to use Google domains, but Namecheap is fine. Regardless of your domain name register, they're all gonna be similar. Basically you are looking for domain name servers, you want to change those name servers, and we can just quickly go through the process of Namecheap. Namecheap is simple. We can go to dashboard, we can go to the domain, manage, and then we simply look for name servers. We pick custom domain, and in order for us to get these name servers we need to update. We will hop into Cloudflare. Okay, Cloudflare, in order for us to get those name servers, I'm just going to quickly run through a process here. I'm going to add a dummy site. So abcd.com, and we can just put 55 here at the back. We can say add site, and for this purpose the free version is fine. We only need a couple of these page rules and WAF rules, so the free version is more than adequate. Once the website is activated within Ezoic, the last step would be to update these name servers. So just bear with me while Cloudflare pulls in all the necessary DNS from the domain. Alright, so this is the necessary DNS records, but what we are looking for is we're looking for the domain name server. So Cloudflare has told us, listen, in order for us to verify it's our website, we need to change these name servers with these name servers. But this website is a dummy site, it doesn't belong to me, so we can't change these name servers. I just wanted to show you the quick process in order for us to add the website to Cloudflare. So once we have these this page, we can say click and check name servers, finish later, and we can just quickly go into the actual testing site from here. And you can also get the name servers from DNS records here at the bottom, and you can simply just go ahead and copy these name servers, one or both of them, one at a time. Just update the name servers here at the back end of your domain register, save that details, and the DNS will take about anything up to 12 hours to populate. So one of the reasons why you want Cloudflare always integrated with your website, a part of the benefits, the security and speed benefits, it also helps to populate your DNS records a lot faster. So let's say, for example, if I had to change DNS records with Namecheap, it might take me 24 hours. If I do the same DNS updates with Cloudflare, it might take 2 hours. So there's a huge difference. I typically have a lot quicker results with Cloudflare, so this is always a good option to have. It helps to save time when it comes to configurations. Alright, so that's it. The first part is done. Now that the website is routed through Cloudflare, essentially what Cloudflare is doing is it's taking over the function of handling these records. So your domain name server, the domain register, essentially in the beginning was handling all your domain DNS records. Once we integrate Cloudflare, now Cloudflare is handling all these records. But now we're going to do the third part of this integration, and that is to tell Ezoic to take over this task from Cloudflare. So essentially, Ezoic will be handling all these records. In order for us to do this, We go into Zodiac, we go to settings. It's now going to give us three options. The first option would be a plugin, which we don't want. It will make your site too slow. The second option is to name servers. That is your second preferred method. Your last method would be Cloudflare, and we're going to look into Cloudflare settings in a second. You can simply just click on the Cloudflare integration. It's going to ask you your Cloudflare login details. You just give the login details, accept, and then Zodiac will pull in all those details. Once that is done, there's only one more approval process that we will need to go through, and this is critical. We'll go to Google Ads, and then under Ad Transparency, there's going to be an option MCM, and this is the approval process that needs to take place. This approval process, if it's done wrong, it can take weeks, so you need to be mindful when you go through this process. The process breaks down as follows. You will tell Google domains to send the invite to your inbox that is connected to this Zodiac account. Once you receive that email, you will click accept. That will send a approval process to your domain. Sometimes your domain can get disapproved because of content quality, but if you're already approved for AdSense, this is merely a formality, and this process shouldn't be any problem. Just keep in mind there is things that you will need to have in place in order for this process to complete, and the most critical point there would be to make sure that your ad.txt file has got no errors within your AdSense dashboard, and also there's no errors with the actual .txt file, and it can be accessible for it is accessible for AdSense. Okay, so that said, I'm not going to go into depth. I will definitely make a tutorial on this and how to get this process done quicker. But it's as long as you just make sure that your ad.txt files is active and working properly, this process should not have any problems. All right, so once you are activated here, the approval process has been done. That can take anything from a week to 14 days on worst case scenario. Now we are ready to start doing some integrations, and where we're going to start with the integrations is first with Cloudflare. I'm just going to go through all the most important settings. I'm going to scan through all of them, but we're going to stop and just focus on the most important ones for a second. SSL, the most important part here is TLS recommender, and also the full version needs to be selected here. So next we're going to look in security, and this is where we're going to be placing some more attention here. So what you can see is there's a lot of spam or hacker attacks that's being blocked here by custom rules, and we're going to look into these custom rules now. And so the reason why we have these security firewalls on the website is as follows. So when your website becomes a little bit more famous and it gets more traffic, that typically will also be more visible to hackers, spam bots trying to hack your website. So how this will work is they will send spam bots to your login URL, essentially having all these failed login attempts to try to guess the password. But the problem with this is that all these failed login attempts is essentially keeping your server resources busy, slowing down your website server for your actual users, making your site a lot slower. By preventing these brute force attacks, you are freeing up your resources for your users, and they are actually allowed to use this. So let's quickly look into some of these settings, and I'm just going to speak about the one setting. Typically I do two of these firewalls, but the login challenge would be sufficient. And let's quickly look into how that login challenge will look like. I'm going to give you a visual representation. We're going to go to incognito mode, login page, and now you will see there's this extra process that's happening from Cloudflare. You'll see this Cloudflare verification. Now we need to click on this button in order to verify it is a human, and now we get to the login page. This process will stop 99% of all brute force attacks, definitely lower overall spam on the website. So this is an extremely good setting to have in terms of speed and security. Other settings, actually, before we go to this other settings, let's quickly just look into how this rule is configured. So we can go create rule. We can give it whatever name. In this case, we will say login challenge. We will pick URL path, and then we will select if this URL path contains particular words, in our case login, then we need to be challenged with an interactive challenge, and that is as simple as it is, and we can just say deploy, and that file will be active. Next, one more setting in terms of speed that you will need to, two more settings actually, and that's going to be under caching. Alright, so firstly you want to make sure, no, that's under speed, my apologies. You want to make sure that the minification is switched off. The reason why we want to do this is because we're going to allow Ezoic to handle all these files moving forward, and we don't want any cache conflict. So on that note, we also will go to rules, click on that, go to page rules, and then we'll configure a page rule to remove all Cloudflare cache. So we will simply say create rule. And once you get that dashboard, I'm just going to open this rule. So how this rule works is, you will notice in the bottom they will give you an example of www domain, and then they will give you some other characters. So first what we need to establish is, how does this domain display in the front end? So we'll go to the domain and we'll see there's no www in front. So what we will do is we will take the whole domain just like that without www, and we will paste it there. The asterisk here in the end just refers to that, it refers to all the directories after the domain name. So the whole website basically is now going to be targeted, and the settings we're targeting is the cache level, and we're going to say bypass, removing all cache from this website. And essentially when you do updates on the site, you will not need to clear the cache every time in Cloudflare, which can become a big hassle when you do or start developing a site. So this is a really useful setting. Alright, so that said, that is the most important configurations within Cloudflare. Now we're set to do some ad configurations. And ad configurations is pretty simple. I'm going to also try to keep this short. We can go to ads. The only tab here in ad positions you really have to be concerned about is ad types, and let's quickly run through just the most important. I'm not going to explain in detail, I'm just going to tell you which ones is important. I also will have more tutorials in breaking these auto ads down in more detail. Alright, so for now, native ads is always good to have on. Vignette ads is always good to have on. Auto insert ads. So here, here's a couple of caveats. So when you have these ads, AI ad placements and enhanced placeholders active, this can actually break the layout of your site. So be careful. If your site is broken and ads just pops up willy-nilly on your site in places that you don't want, this is the first place that you will have to come and look and deactivate enhanced placeholders. If this doesn't fix the problem, then switch off AI ad placements. But typically AI ad placements does not cause that much troubles. About 70% of all my clients, I deactivate enhanced placeholders because it does more harm than good. But the reason why you want to have it active, if it doesn't break your site, it's good to have active because it will definitely increase your bottom line revenue. Also, it's good to have this disclosure message on top of your ads. It just gives a little bit more transparency to your users. I just typically use sponsored ads or no disclosure, but typically sponsored ads is fine. Anchor ads is also a good ad to have on. You can just keep the settings as is. Side rail ads is a new function, and let's see if we can quickly look see if we can spot some of those ads in the front end. So side rail ads, they are automatically placed here on the side of the website. There we go, the side ads. So in some websites, some layouts, they can definitely get a good return on investment in terms of revenue. Next, the sticky sidebar ads. This is also an important setting. So if we go to blog post pages, the sidebar, it will give us opportunity to have ads floating with the client scroll. So it's always a good option to have. Sidebar ads can account to up to 7% plus of your total revenue, so it's always good to have on. So just a couple of notes on this particular layout, and this is to do with getting maximum revenue. You always want to have your content section of your blog post no more than 800, 820. It gives a better user experience because the user doesn't have to physically shift his head from left to right to read the content. They can simply just use their eyes. It is a better user experience. And also, it gives you the opportunity to have a sidebar, which is great for ad placements. So that's basically site row ads. A thing to take note of is video ads. When you place video ads on your site, it will make your site a lot slower. So let's quick put this in perspective. When you put Ezoic on your site, be prepared that your site will slow down anything up to between 4 to 8 seconds. When you place the video ad functions on that, it can slow down with another 5 to 8 seconds. So video ads is something you need to consider. The reason why I deactivate video ads on most of my clients' websites is because it doesn't really make a lot of revenue when you consider how slow the site becomes. So typically I deactivate these floating ads on the site. But there's another setting that you will have to disable in this regard. You can go to Homix. This is the video ad network of Ezoic. Just make sure that Homix is disabled. If you see this little disable Homix here, that means it's actually enabled, and you can see here it's not really doing anything. There's ads on the site, but nobody's clicking on it. So you can just simply disable that. As easy as that. So for this case, I'm just going to keep this on. All right, so going back to ad placements. Placement servers you can keep disabled. This is a new feature. New feature you can keep disabled. This is also a new feature I'm not familiar. You can keep disabled. So typically when these features becomes a little bit more established with Ezoic, I'll start integrating this with my clients. But until the new service hasn't proven its effectiveness, I do not implement them if it's not been tested. All right, so that's it. This is wraps up for the Ezoic dashboard. So let's hop into WordPress itself and just speak about plugins. This is important. So for the first thing you want to do is deactivate all cache plugins and all image optimizations, because Ezoic will be handling all those configurations moving forward. So a part of removing all those plugins, because they will cause code conflict, you can also go ahead and install the Ezoic plugin. The reason why you want to install the Ezoic plugin is because you have this a feature where you can integrate the Ezoic plugin on your website, and every time you update content on your website, it will automatically clear the cache on the server. If you don't do this, then you're going to see when you work on the site doesn't update properly. WordPress will react weird and you will think it's broken, but it's actually not broken. It's just a simple thing like a cache that needs to be cleared. In order for us to get this functionality active, we need to get the API key. We can go to Ezoic search bar, we can say API gateway, and simply just copy this code here and go to the plugin. You can just add the code here and just say save. Another settings that you also want to after you added the API settings, you also want to automatic recaching enabled, purge homepage enabled, and this Facebook share cache, this is optional if that is configured on your site. More settings that you want to look into your plugin. This is pretty important. You will see all major optimization plugins will have these functions ready to disable. So Ezoic plugin gives this free of charge. So you can just disable most of it, but just make sure that you test your website afterwards, because some of these settings might break your website depending what you are using your site for. But most of the time, about 80% of the time, you can disable all these settings. It will not affect your website. All right, so that said, let's quickly hop back into the plugins and see if there's anything else that we can speak about before we go ahead and look at manual ad placements. All right, so let's just quickly go down here. And that's basically the short and the long for WordPress. There's a lot we can speak about in terms of speed, but making WordPress faster, there's a bit more complex than just configuring cache plugins. Let me just quickly give you an example. WordPress is basically a database management, and if you want to speed up WordPress, your main focus should not be on caching files. It should be speeding up your database responsiveness. If you do that, your website will be a lot more responsive. And I can quickly just give you an example of a site that's been optimized. So there's not a lot being optimized, but the server has been optimized and the site has been built mindfully. And this is just to give you a quick example of what a good website will look like before any ads. All right, so I'm not going to go into depth. The site is built with Gherkin blocks, and that is definitely your best method to proceed when especially you are integrating ad networks. All right, so that's it. Let's quickly speak about manual ad placements. So before we start manual ad placements, we need to make sure that you have your Chrome browser installed, and we can simply do that by going to Google. We can say Ezoic extension. It's the first one, and yeah, that's the guy. You can just install that. Once installed, you will see this little button here on the side. If you don't see this button, you can simply go to this jigsaw puzzle piece, click on that, manage extensions, look for Zodiac, make sure it's activated here, click on details, make sure allow in incognito is active. Once that is done, now we are ready to do manual ad placements. We can click on this button. Firstly, we go to ads, view, activate placeholders. We give it some time. We can see the browser is now loading. If you see your browser keeps loading and it doesn't stop loading, that means there's code conflict and something is not right on your site. First place to look at will be your plugins or cache from Zodiac itself. Okay, now that we know the plugin is working, there's no conflict or issues, we can go to the second step of the activating the plugin, create, and then we're going to say select a location. I'm just going to quickly show you how to do how to insert an ad. It's pretty self-explanatory. So basically, if we want to place an ad on this blog post page, if we're going to place an ad here, it's going to simultaneously or automatically post an ad on all the other blog post pages on a similar location. So basically, we're using this page as a template. In order for us to add an ad here, we can just click on the section we want to place the ad. But let's say we want to place it below this text. We can simply go and click on this arrow. After that, we can say insert here. Most important part is to give it a name, but in our case we know we're going to use a preset. We're going to use under the first paragraph, it's automatically giving a name. Settings keep as is. The only settings that you really want to be concerned here is to give it some margins. Top and bottom 32 is a good margin. A part of that you want to keep this ad as standard as possible, and you can just say save placeholder. Alright, so now Zodiac will automatically pick the size ad because we didn't put restrictions on this ad. So Zodiac will pick the ad size and display it when they feel fit. Alright, so once this ad is active, we can simply delete the ad by clicking on this arrow. Just bear with me, my mouse is not working properly. Okay, there we go. We can simply click on that arrow and say delete, and that will remove the ad, and so forth. And that is basically the short and the long. In order for us to save these ad placements, we'll need to go back to the plugin here at the top, go to view, and okay, something is not working as intended. There we go. Or it automatically deactivated this. So basically you just need to come to view and it will give you a red button and you say deactive, but it's automatically done that. So let's just go through the process again, and it will look like this. deactivate, and once it's deactive and it's not loading anymore, that ad placements will be saved. Alright, so that is the short and the long. I hope this was insightful and it puts you on your way to a more WordPress Ezoic integration that's more effective. If you got any questions, send me a message or ask me a question in the comments, and also look in the description for all my recommended softwares and hosting that I use on a regular basis for my clients. Like I say, any questions, feel free to ask me and I'll be happy to simplify things.